Phyllis. Phyllis, I'm really, I know the answer, and I bet you do too. But when is the right time to shape your legacy? And a lot of people, this is what I've found being in practice for 33 years, that most people will come into my office when they're about to retire to start their retirement plan, or maybe they got a bad note from the doctor and they're going to start their living trust, right? And they wait till they have to do it. So
Right.
I want to explore, why this is so important to align this now early.
Right, right. Yeah, and I'm going to answer that question, and then I want to talk about the kinds of legacies there are. And I
Mhm.
don't mean what you're doing with your money, because I think this is going to be a really interesting discussion where we come from it from different angles. And you're focused more on the money end. I am, although all things that go into your life, I mean, they're not, you know, compent.
Well, as a whole, I've literally
Yeah.
in where I am, I've actually prepared. We have a document preparation service over 6,000 living trusts. So I that's the base. That's the
Mhm.
baseline. But what I like about you is your how you how you look at legacy and generations. So,
Yeah.
that you have such a neat view on it. I wanted to let you
Yeah.
elaborate on that and
But
share that.
I am very passionate about all things generational. At,
Yes.
and it is my focus on legacy is at work also, rather than what are you putting in your will and that kind of thing.
Right,
Although
right,
again, we don't put these things in compartments. So
right.
let you go back to the question you
Well,
asked: when to
when
start
is the
thinking
right
about
time
it.
to shape your legacy?
Well, I think that, it's never too late. But I think, as I said, I focus more on the work legacy by the time you're in your 40s. But it could be earlier than that. That the idea is to be intentional, not just have it happen to you. And for instance, my partner in Legacy Makers at Work podcast and so the work that we're doing around that, she started thinking about legacy in her 20s, and that was because her best friend and roommate suddenly died while they were still in college.
Mm,
And she looked around and she said, this 22-year-old,
mm.
or something like that, what, how can we remember her? What did she have to leave? And this was before they all had computers and everything was electronic. And she found letters and other things that her roommate had left, and started thinking about it and relating it to herself too. And maybe I should think about that, as a bigger picture of what is legacy. And then, but some people, it's later. For myself, I really didn't think in those terms until I was advising a particular law firm and then others when I worked with a lot of law firms. And
Yeah.
it had to do with succession planning and transition planning. And in this particular case where I first started thinking about it, there was a very successful lawyer who built his firm, and he had chosen who should be the successor for the next managing partner and CEO, but he was reluctant to let go. And so he had plenty to do on the outside. He was doing all these charitable things. He was on all these boards. And he didn't have to let go of any of that. And he still hasn't.
Right, right.
But,
Yeah.
but, I started saying, well, you don't want to screw up what you built here. you know, by,
Right. Right.
by not really passing things along. Nobody's pushing you out. And I had the three top people think about how they would like to be remembered, how they would like to have their legacy at work. And
That's great. You know
so,
what?
so
That.
that that was when I started thinking about it. And my own, I was in midlife before I really started thinking in terms of legacy for me. So it can
Right.
be any time, but the earlier the better, because then
Mhm.
you have more time to be intentional about it
Right.
and
Right.
accomplish more.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what I found is after, I started mine in my 40s only because I had a company that does that. But I found basically around midlife, I wanted to live my legacy, not just wait till I passed away. And I was really blessed to be able to spend maybe 10 years with my daddy. And I would fly up, my mom was sick. And so I'd fly up every month and he would tell his story. And I was able
Mm.
to transcribe his story. And it's on my bucket list to actually be able to, write it in a book and share it because he was a genius and went to, Caltech, and Einstein was one of his teachers. And it's a really amazing story. And our family walked across Europe, during the war to escape. And I walked barefoot across America for Christ and all these different things it's just amazing. And so then I realized, I don't want to just leave something behind. I want to create a living legacy. And what I really like about you is your generational, right, perspectives on legacy and a kaleidoscope of dreams. So how people can investigate different generations and view legacies and determine unique perspectives that I think are so important to encapsulate now before they're lost, right? Before they're gone, because there's a lot of scrubbing going on in the content world, and the value of the generations before us have wisdom, don't you think?
Well, of course. And I think that there's a lot of wisdom in the younger generations.
Right.
I love working with the younger generation.
Yes.
And again, my focus, and because I've really been behind thinking about legacy in my legacy in terms of where do I want to put my money besides investing it and all that. But,
Yeah.
would I want to, have a small foundation or the various things that you can
Yes.
do along
Yes. Right.
those lines.
Uh-huh.
But my legacy in my thinking about it is what I like to, say is I thought of the word brand line today. Maybe somebody else has
What was the word?
brand line. It's a
Tagline.
tagline, but
Okay.
long,
Yeah.
which is in in the business of uniting people, purpose, potential, and profits across the generations. So again, that's
That's
with
cool.
the
Nice. Yeah.
work focus. But
Mm-hmm.
I think even I like to think about a dual concept in terms of work legacy,
Yeah.
which is what you would like to accomplish in your own career and how
Uh-huh.
you influence the people that you work with, inspire, help them,
There you
whatever
go.
you
That's
want to
it.
say. But
Right.
the influence you have and make that a positive influence.
Yes.
Uh,
That's
so,
living
but
legacy. Yep.
at the same time, if you are working either as an employee or as an advisor to an organization, and that can be, a for profit, non for profit, charitable, whatever it might be, that you are helping to increase their legacy in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the influence that they have, and of
Right.
can be the profits too,
Yes.
can
That's
be a
beautiful.
financial one. So I
Yes.
call that a dual legacy, and that's what I think that people who are at work should be thinking about.
That's brilliant, Phyllis. That's really good. And I'm so glad that you're able to transcribe that to younger generations too. And the impact of that is amazing. I'm curious, did for you, just as an individual, because the living trust is limited, did you like the foundation? I mean, how does somebody, is that something you would suggest for people, say, that really want to, you know, contribute? Is a foundation, is that where, how they should set that up? Or
Uh, I have no idea. I don't have a
Mhm.
foundation.
You don't have an, oh, okay. You
No,
didn't
no,
do,
no.
you haven't gone that
Actually,
route.
when this is what the only time I really thought of starting my own foundation was after my mother died. She had Parkinson's for 25 years. And anyway, so when she died, and she left not a whole lot of money. I mean, it's not what you can think of as when you hear the word foundation.
Right,
Not
right.
that's just a couple of 100,000. Uh, and so I was wondering, and somebody who was working for Foundation Source who came to something that I spoke at, and we were talking afterwards. And, he's saying, well, they manage foundations. It's not as much work as you think. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I never did it. And I stopped thinking about it because the time was as we went into a recession. And so all that money, I believe you leave it there and you don't panic and it's going to come back, because that's the experience I've had through my life so far. It has. But what I would have looked for to start something in her name um, was
Yeah,
evaporated
yeah.
temporarily, you know.
Uh-huh.
So I just stopped thinking about foundation, and I'm still trying to think, what to do on that side. I'm really good on my work legacy and what I want to do there, and that's uniting people of all sorts of differences, and I'm all about cross-generational conversation. There's too much divisiveness about all kinds of things, and it all got worse when we hit the pandemic, I should say, the pandemic hit us, and people were, not together anymore.
No, right,
And
right.
so you may be, working with your family all in the same dining room, and educating your kids in the
Right,
same space.
right.
Other than that, you were not with other people. The connections were not the same, and it's very hard for a lot of people to reestablish a lot of that, to feel comfortable. And that's a lot of what I do to get people out of their silos, and to be at more ease and feeling psychologically safe, to be
Right.
able to
It's,
say things without
yes.
being worried about attacking,
Somebody attacking. Yeah, we used to be able to have conversations. I'm so glad that you're talking about it. You're like the legacy squad, right? Bridging generations for a brighter tomorrow. Because the old, the young, really there is no time and space or distance in love. So the age thing, everybody has a value, and we used to be able to have conversations, and even if we were on different political spectrums, but don't even mention political. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my God, of
I
course.
mean, I've never seen anything like it, but we can just, that you're bridging the generations, that is fabulous. Maybe share a little bit what and how you do that. What kind of processes you're doing there.
Well, there are a number of ways to do that. I mean, it's about understanding and building harmony, but it's also getting people over the fears they may have. You know, a lot of the nastiness or the myths or the, bickering and all those kinds of things are because people are afraid of losing something
Right.
or feeling uncomfortable because it's not something they're familiar with or used to, and they're comfortable with the way they've always done it or seen it.
Right.
And some people are different, but it's not only about age. And it could be about anything. I've recently gotten my certification just 2 weeks ago now, in cultural intelligence, and I wanted to add that to my knowledge and my toolbox of the things that are very generational. But there's so much intersection among all the different kinds of differences that there are. So you can't even
I
think
like that, the way you say
in terms of
intersection, right, between
or race
differences.
or sexual orientation or people who, have, we don't say disabilities anymore, but are different in their abilities, whatever they might be, and and just differences in thinking, thought.
Right. Right. I like the way that you're saying intersection, right? And so you have frozen, your screen has frozen, and I'm not sure what's going on here. So I'm going to pause this recording. We'll have to come back. Hold on a minute. Why don't you share with me how the different generations think about this whole legacy process?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of an interesting thing. And again, since people are all different, they'll think about it in their own way. But I think what would come to mind in a general way is how the older parents and the younger generations talk about legacy, and the fact that it's so difficult for, in many families, even if they get along well and
Right.
nobody's fighting over the money,
Yeah.
that often the younger people feel uncomfortable to bring it up because they don't want to think that their parents
Right.
think that they're, either waiting for them to die or, will think that they're thinking about things like that. And then from the older ones, they often just feel uncomfortable also, maybe thinking about their own mortality. But it doesn't matter which end of the family spectrum, somebody's got to start that conversation. You know that well. You do it all the time.
Yeah.
And again, it's a matter of getting people comfortable. And, in an environment, if there's somebody, a third party like yourself, that's useful because you can set that kind of more psychological safety. We're not ready to fight over anything here. We're not suggesting that you're not going to be around too much longer. I mean, none of that. It's just important because life is, and it doesn't end. And also, there may be things that we want to do together as a family in terms of the financial aspect of it.
Right.
So that it should be talked about. Then professionally, by by the time you're in your 50s, that would be the Gen Xers now. It's about impact and influence, and how you really want to be remembered as a contributor personally and professionally. As I
That's
said,
right.
intentionally, it doesn't happen to you. And the kind of legacy you really want to avoid, the third kind, is a negative legacy that you leave an impression with people that is really something you don't want
Something
people
you don't
to
want.
remember.
Right.
And
Exactly.
like with social media, if something gets on that is negative, what you have to do is pile on, get people to, write your Google reviews or whatever, saying positive things. And
Right.
so in a work situation, you would want to do the same thing to
Hmm.
change the impression of you. But you might, on the positive side, what impact and influence you might have about your career, your leadership. Did you contribute to making a better product? The effect on organizational culture. That's something I deal with a lot, to make sure that that's positive and doing as much as you can. And then for the younger generations, we hear so much about how they are into and very active about a number of causes, the environment, but also social and justice causes. And so
Hmm.
help to do that, because that's going to benefit society as a whole.
The bottom line that I hear you saying is having the conversation, and which I just, like I said, I've done thousands of trusts that like you said, as close as families are, people don't want to have the conversation. And it's so empowering to have that conversation. And you may be really close with your siblings, but when mom and dad pass away, things can change. And can get scary. It's better to make that bond together and have the conversation. And I think I hear you just saying, for people to be able to have the conversation now. It's like, the show Money 911. We got to think about the hard things, and talk about death and taxes and
Yeah,
and money and all these hard things,
yeah,
and pandemics and wars, and all of those things are to just guide us on how we can live our best no matter what's happening. And it really does come to the conversation.
yeah.
Now you
And if
well,
you're feeling inadequate about
yes,
starting a conversation,
yes,
then find a third party that can be helpful.
there you go.
that
That's a
that
good tip.
that is knowledgeable about these things, that
Exactly.
is an empathetic person
Right.
who is able to be, in a way,
Yes,
like a mediator.
exactly.
And
Very
that's
good.
something that you do and I do in work situations. And
Right.
it
That's
just makes
mhm.
people have to get over the fears and the
Mhm.
discomforts, because
Right.
it's really worth it. And I
Yes.
learned early in life that I really benefited when I had hard conversations, and I really almost enjoy that. I kind of look forward to it, because
Uh-huh.
I have seen that it can have a very positive outcome. And you're really glad that you did it, instead of letting things either fester when
Right.
there's really some conflict or something,
Yeah.
or,
That's
or
great.
just never happening
Mhm.
and passing up that opportunity.
That's a fabulous advice. And we're kind of coming to the end of our time right now, but you and maybe this is just an idea if you want to. Maybe they can email you to get your 7 guiding questions for crafting your legacy, right?
Absolutely.
That would be, because that is
Happy.
such a gift that it, and you can also send it to me and I can share it with people, but give everybody your email so they can get 7 questions to drive your legacy creation.
All right. Yes. And if you want to hear about other kinds of things, please, I would be happy to give a complimentary call on your
Sure.
generational questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, do
Tell
reach
them
out.
how to, what's your email? What's your contact for them to get a hold of you?
Okay, my email, and I imagine you'll have it in show notes too in
Sure.
writing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's my name, or P as in Peter, W as in Wendy, Haserot, that's my last name, Haserot. That's HAS as in Sam, EROT, PW, Haserot, at P, again, P as in Peter, D as in David, COUN as in Nancy, SEL.com. That's pdcouncil.com. And it's not the, nonprofit kind of council with CIL. It's SEL as in advice. So PW
Perfect.
Haserot at pdcouncil.com.
Wonderful. So
And I'd love to hear from you.
there you go. So you can reach out directly and get those 7 guiding questions that will craft your legacy and get the conversation going. Phyllis, it's been a joy to talk to you today. You are a wealth of information, and I'm glad that you're the voice out there talking about generational legacy and connecting the generations so we can all talk, because everybody has a gift to share. And we appreciate you sharing your gift with us today.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on this exciting episode of Legacy Unlocked Money 911. Remember, your legacy isn't just a distant idea. It's the story you're creating every single day. If you're as passionate as I am about weaving together generations, purpose, and prosperity, let's connect at healthymoneyhappylife.com. Or you can even jump on my calendar, meet with KrisMiller.com. That's Kris with a K. And of course, check out our new course, Create Income You'll Never Outlive. And hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't be shy. Hit that subscribe button, share the love, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep crafting your legacy with heart and soul. There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithkrismiller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.